Would you want to travel 17,500 miles per hour in a flaming tube? Well, in First Man, Ryan Gosling does exactly that. There's a lot of Oscar buzz surrounding this film. Does it deserve it? Let's find out. First Man is a historical drama based on Neil Armstrong's walk on the moon. He's the first person to ever set foot on the moon. And so we are told the story from 1961 to 1969 and just follows the journey, and it's Neil Armstrong as the central character. Now, he's surrounded by all these other astronauts, but it's really his story and focusing on him and his journey. Ryan Gosling is in the starring role, and he does a really good job in this. I mean, he is brooding and quiet and almost stoic at times, but he's super focused and he's just dedicated at what he's doing. And his performance really reflects that. Like, you just believe that this guy is, I mean, he is hardcore at what he does. Now, it's not like he lacks a lot of personal skills, like hardcore, like he's pushing all these people out, but he can just perform under pressure, and he's so driven, and I loved it because there are just certain scenes within there. I mean, the whole movie opens up with him in one of the experimental planes, and stuff goes a little wonky, and he has to correct. And so it's crazy to watch him, and really, he doesn't speak for the first chunk of time at the movie, but you hear the radio chatter, but you just see him moving and reacting, and just really, it's driven. I guess that's the best way. I mean, this struggle to survive, but also this focused ability that he's really good at. Claire Foy plays Janet Armstrong. Now, I am not totally on the Claire Foy bandwagon. I mean, she's okay, and there's just something about her that I just can't just fully get behind. But in First Man, she has this intensity and this anger that's almost a little off-putting at times, but there is a scene at which it totally fits, and I loved her in this. I mean, she has this one scene where she confronts Ryan Gosling as he's about ready to go out the door on his trip to the moon. I mean, he's not going out of the door and up to the moon, but you know, he's leaving, and he hasn't said goodbye to his children. He hasn't even told them or had this discussion that he may not come back. And she just confronts him about this. And Claire Foy, in this moment, I absolutely loved. She had this intensity, but it was so authentic and genuine. And you could totally tell that if that was a real situation, I mean, that's what it felt like, was a real situation. And so it put me right in to that spot, and it was very emotional and very just like you tug at it, and it just makes you like, whoa. So even though I wasn't totally in love with her the entire film, at that time, I was like, wow, yes, good choice on the casting her. I was shocked at how many other big name stars there actually were in this film. I mean, you have Kyle Chandler, Pablo Schreiber, Jason Clarke, even Ethan Embry and Lucas Haas. And so it was crazy. Like, I hadn't seen any of the trailers going in, so I didn't know really what to expect, other than I knew it was about space. I knew that it was Ryan Gosling playing Neil Armstrong on his trip to the moon. But outside of that, I didn't know who else was in this film, and so it was really cool to see all of these faces on there that you're like, oh, hey, whoa, I didn't know he was in there. Oh, hey, that's cool. And they all did really good at their roles. One thing I found interesting is that throughout the space program, and as they're going through what we used to call Gemini, but they call Gemini, so Gemini maybe, was that the astronauts who were, or even the test pilots, as they were testing out the rockets, when they weren't up in a ship or doing that, they were in mission control. And I didn't know that, and I don't know exactly how accurate that is, but I just thought it was a cool feature of the film, because you have these people who are truly experts in both sides. It's not like you just have some geek behind the console there tapping away at stuff and talking into his microphone. No, he actually knows what's going on in the rocket as well, because he's done it. The cinematography in First Man is absolutely stunning. I mean, it really puts you into the rocket with the astronauts. And it is crazy because some of the landscapes are just beautiful. And it's not just in space, and it's not just, as the rocket's flying or something like that. Those are stunning, but even some of the shots just where they're on the ground, or as they're walking, or as Ryan Gosling is staring up into the stars, just a lot of the shots that were framed were beautiful. It was really great to see these. And then you have the money shots, really. I mean, it's when they're in space and when they're in the rocket, and as the rocket's taking off, and you just get to see different angles and the astronauts and seeing reflections off of their, you know, off of their face masks or through a window, or even at some points off of a mirror as it's floating through the cabin, I guess that's what it's called, inside the spaceship, as they you know, go outside of the atmosphere and there's no gravity. It was just really cool, and they did a great job of hiding the cameras also, so maybe it's CGI or they just rotoscoped it all out, but either way, the cinematography was really good. But that being said, they use a lot of handheld and shaky cam footage. Now, in certain instances, this was amazing and it was jarring and it fit perfectly, because as the rocket is taking off, I mean, you can imagine that everything is just shaking. I mean, fillings coming out, I could imagine. It's just, it was shaking so much, especially these early rockets, as, you know, they're tin cans with a lot of fuel behind them. But it just, that shaky cam continued on throughout different parts of the film. And to me, it just got a little bit tiring. I need a little bit more steadiness, please, so I can just focus a little bit, give my eyes just a tiny bit of rest. So it's a minor complaint in and of the amazing cinematography that there was, but it just wore on me just a tiny bit. There is one scene that was just, it was very intense and very crazy, and I'm not gonna tell you the outcome of it, but it's the spaceship is spinning, and it's spinning at 360 revolutions per minute. That is insane. I mean, just think about that. That is 6 times around every second. That's my math. 6 times around every second. That's insane. And so it was just, you get that, and you get the shots from inside the cockpit, and you see sometimes the Earth going like this as it's going around, and then you see Ryan Gosling's face, and you see the, you know, the reflections and everything. And so it was really good at how Damien Chazelle, the director, captured this, and how he you know, framed it and directed everybody around to make sure that as he's telling this story, that it was just stunning and spectacular, and it puts you inside the cockpit with the astronauts. The film is very emotional also, and it caught me off guard in that aspect. I didn't realize that it was going to be so emotional, and that's even despite Ryan Gosling being kind of stoic, or maybe in a constant state of mourning or anger. I don't know exactly what it was, but he is like this thing over here, and then you're going like this with your emotions throughout the film. And so it was really good, because I wasn't always happy, I wasn't always sad, I wasn't always angry or real like on the edge of my seat, but the whole time I was taken on this wild ride, and I loved it. Even though the film is almost 2.5 hours long, it didn't feel like that to me. The pacing, I thought, was great, that it didn't really drag at any point in time for me that I felt in this. And so I enjoyed that part of it, and it really flew by. Like I said before, some of the space scenes are just exquisite in what they do, and I really loved the fact that they used silence when they showed parts of space. And it felt like the movie Gravity, because we know, and even as they explained, that out there, because there is no gravity and there is no atmosphere and air, there's nothing for sound to bounce off of, and so there is no sound. So it truly is silent. And I appreciated that, because it felt more authentic and more real. Damien Chazelle, as I said, he directed this, and he did a great job at getting amazing performances out of his characters, out of his actors really, and then also in his direction, in storytelling, because it just crafted this really well-rounded and engaging narrative. You may not be into historical dramas, but First Man should not be missed. It is dramatic, extremely emotional at times, and it's also humorous in many different ways. There's no sex, nudity, or violence. There is some profanity. I loved the movie, and going in blind made it even better, because I didn't know what to expect, and so I just got to experience everything for the first time, not seeing a trailer or anything. I give First Man 4.5 out of 5 couches. What is your favorite movie that involves space? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.